On the count of 3, you awake alert and refreshed, returning to where you were in order to leave your past behind. 1, 2, 3.
This is indeed a disturbing universe.
Hello, greetings, and welcome. Welcome to the Stereo 999 YouTube channel. I am your host, the artist formerly known as Stereo Steve, and I'm here with my pal, Mr. Gopher. Say hi, Mr. Gopher.
Hey, Mr. Gopher.
Yeah, we've been just chilling here, celebrating a little bit, because I finally got my 200 subscribers. Woohoo! Yeah, 200 subscribers. It's been teetering in the 190s for a while, you know, and finally all my whimpering and moaning is paid off, and I got 200 subscribers. So I do have a special video I'm going to make to celebrate, but it's still in the works. It's coming in the future. Also, I want to see if it sticks. I want to see if the number fluctuates or not. If you've been watching me and you haven't subscribed, you know, it's like just this microscopic amount of energy from your finger to do it, you know. So, you know, it's not gonna bust your God, I don't want to be one of them people that just whines and whines and whines about, I need attention. Another band I know you've all heard of, but maybe not this record. Modern English. I'm sure you've all heard Stop the World and Melt With You like 9,000 times. But this is their first album, Mesh and Lace. And it gets into some dark and disturbed territory more than their later work. And it's definitely worth hearing. It's kind of proto-goth, post-punk on the 4AD label. Okay. This is Moev from Canada. Later on, they were on the Network label and were kind of lumped in with industrial music. But this is their first EP, and it's a really nice synth pop record with female vocals. The song Cracked Mirror is a total earworm ever since somebody put it on a tape for me back in the 80s. Rest in peace, Mark Stewart. This is Mark Stewart was in the pop group. This is Mark Stewart and the Mafia with As the Veneer of Democracy Starts to Fade, with some Adrian Sherwood production and a lot of the Tackhead guys on it. And it's still been fading, that veneer. I don't know what's left, but, you know. Okay. Just going by the stack, the way it's stacked here. San Francisco Bay Area classic album, Sea of Unrest by the Toiling Midgets. And this is the first Toiling Midgets album from '82, when they had notorious Ricky Williams on vocals, who was in The Sleepers before that. And yeah, so they're kind of part of that Sleepers, Negative Trend, Flipper continuum. And this is just good. Heavy guitars and good stuff. And Michael Belfer from The Sleepers was in Tuxedo Moon, so This is kind of conceptual continuity here. This is Tuxedo Moon's first single, Joe Boy the Electronic Ghost. And this was the original lineup of the band when Winston Tong was still the front man. The B-side, Pinheads on the Move, is a nutty song. Okay, now we're making our way up to Liverpool. And the Julian Cope fronted mighty Teardrop Explodes. And I thought I would show this single instead of their album, because this was the first record I ever got by them. And their singles always had these B-sides that were pretty experimental. And the A-side of this, the song Reward, real catchy tune with a little bit of a 60s vibe and a horn section. And then the B-side, Strange House in the Snow. It's almost like a Jim Morrison-like meltdown. And if you read reviews, a lot of people hate it. And I love it for the same reason they hate it. Because it's bonkers. All right. Another band I thought I'd show some lesser-known albums. Lesser-known EPs instead of their better-known albums. Echo and the Bunnymen, also from Liverpool, part of that same kind of continuum. This is Shine So Hard. This is a 4-song live EP from '81. And this is the 12-inch single of the song Promise from their album Heaven Up Here. Has the great B-side, Broke My Neck. And this is the long version. You see that little band in the middle. That's where the guitar kind of goes crazy. All right. So now we get back to the Bay Area. Glorious Din, part of the mid-'80s like peace punk scene. The singer was from Sri Lanka, and one of the guitarists, or one of them went on to be in Thinkin' Fellers Union later on. But they made 2 albums. This is their first album that's more kind of Joy Division-y sounding. And then their second album is more acoustic. And they're great. I think their stuff has recently been reissued. And if you want a little slice of the mid-'80s scene here in the city, which is not as well documented as the late 70s scene here, in my opinion, check out Glorious Den. Okay, now we go to Australia with Flash in the Pan. They had kind of a trippy song called Walking in the Rain that had kind of spoken vocals and this kind of eerie synthesizer riff under it. And Flash in the Pan, like I said, they were Australian. Here's the interesting thing. This was George Young, who was the older brother of Angus and Malcolm Young from AC/DC, going new wave. And that was the deal with Flash in the Pan. The best things in life are free. The Flying Lizards, Money. And this is the 12-inch with the long version. And, you know, if you've only heard like the first half short version of this, you might think it's a novelty, but they get into some experimental dubbed out kind of stuff on this and on their album. I mean, along with the cover tunes. It's just real dubby and post-punky kind of stuff. All right.
Juice, toast, milk, and delicious fruit-flavored tricks. The light disguise will get me some. Welcome to Hawaii, Hawaii, Hawaii. Thank you. Aloha tricks in raspberry red.
I am Mother Nature, designer of all the things you see and all the things you are. For millions of years, Father Time and I have worked hand in hand to make the world a better place to live in. All things considered, we think we've done fairly well. We have made our mistakes. There was one about 10,000 years ago when we tried a topsy-turvy experiment.
Seagulls, seagulls, chilling on the lake. Seagulls, yeah.
Oh no, you can't leave yet. You gotta have a nice cup of tea with me.
Okay, so a little while ago I was listening to some tunes, and I was thinking at first I was thinking about one-hit wonder bands, and I was thinking one-hit wonder bands that have other albums, and maybe the album with the hit is not the best album. Maybe there's another album, lesser known album, that is a more solid collection of songs to listen to all the way through. And I decided not to limit myself to just one-hit wonder albums, but also some classic rock artists. And I'm just going to get right into it. Going to start with kind of a no-brainer. Blue Oyster Cult, Agents of Fortune. This is the album that has their hit song, Don't Fear the Reaper. It's a wonderful album. It was my intro to this band. I think it's great. But what is the most solid album to listen to all the way through? Secret Treaties. Doesn't have really huge hits like Don't Fear the Reaper, but every song is good and it just rocks from start to finish. So that's kind of what I'm talking about here. Okay, I'm going to get into a one-hit wonder band next. This is Stories, which Ian Lloyd was the singer, and Michael Brown, who was in the Left Bank and Montage and some other bands. He was the keyboardist and main songwriter. And they had one hit song, which was a song that they did not write, called Brother Louie. Louie, 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 Louie. But there's a lot more to them than just that song. I mean, think glam rock with harpsichords. And this album is pretty great. But this one, their first album, no real huge hits on it, but it always kind of had a special place in my heart, you know. Very underrated Baroque pop record that kind of fell through the cracks. And then the third album, Michael Brown was out of the band by then. And the third album, they were kind of torn. They were trying to get another hit, like with Mammy Blue or If It Feels Good, Do It. But then they were trying to get more prog rocky. They were kind of trying to have it both ways with this album. And I don't know. As you can see, they lost their shirts. Don't get me wrong. Toys in the Attic is a great record. It is a great record. But Sweet Emotion and Walk This Way just kind of stand out from the rest of the songs that are just kind of a blur of bluesy rock. Of course, they did Big 10-inch Record, which they heard on the Dr. Demento show and covered. You See Me Crying is kind of proto to their power ballads. But the most listenable, solid album from start to finish, in my opinion, with Aerosmith would be Rocks. Because Rocks. I mean, there's not really a huge hit like Walk This Way or Dream On. I mean, Sick as a Dog is a catchy song that should have been a big hit. I guess Back in the Saddle and Last Child got some FM airplay, but yeah, no really huge hits on this album, but just very solid, good listening from start to finish. Patti Smith, Easter. You could say her one big hit from this era was Because the Night, which she co-wrote with Bruce Springsteen. What's kind of funny is I was listening to this album on Spotify, and the song Rock and Roll N-Bomb was excised from the album, but the intro is still there on Spotify, so it just cuts off. But anyway, fans of Patti Smith would say that the masterpiece is really her first album, Horses, and you can't really argue with that. But I want to direct your attention towards a couple of other albums. Radio Ethiopia, if you want to get more into the experimental side of the Patti Smith group. The title track is this long jam that's just crazy and chaotic. And there's also some iconic songs such as Ask the Angels and Peeing in the River. But yeah, if you like the more experimental aspects of Horses, Radio Ethiopia. If you want a poppier album that I think is actually a little better than Easter, Wave, produced by Todd Rundgren. She does a cover of So You Want to Be a Rock and Roll Star, and has Dancing Barefoot, another great song. Also, for the sake of conceptual continuity, I wanted to mention that on this Blue Oyster Cult Agents of Fortune, Patti Smith made some contributions. She co-wrote and sang backup vocals on the song The Revenge of Vera Gemini. And then the final song, Debbie Denise, she also co-wrote. Next, a one-hit wonder band, Player. Not Slayer, but Player. With their mega hit song, Baby Come Back. And listen to Baby Come Back and She's Gone by Hall & Oates back to back. And it's almost the same structure, even down to the false ending. But yeah, Baby Come Back is just an iconic song. But I almost never listen to this entire album. But Player's second album, Danger Zone, I think has a lot of great songs on it. You know, they were trying to get a hit. You know, Prisoner of Your Love they were kind of trying to get a disco hit. Silver Lining they were trying to get a rock anthem, and the lyrics are pretty brilliant because it's just a laundry list of cliches. Every cloud has a silver lining. It's the darkest before the dawn. But yeah, and what else on here? I've Been Thinking, which is the best power ballad of the 80s ever, and it was made in 1978. But yeah, I mean, you know, when I listen to this album all the way through a lot more often than I listen to that one. Okay. Speaking of the 80s, one of my favorite bands back in the 80s was REM from Athens, Georgia. Back when there were all these great bands coming out of there, all this indie rock was coming out of the woodwork. Most fans nowadays consider Out of Time their best record, probably their biggest seller, because it had a couple of their biggest hits with Shiny Happy People and Losing My Religion. But I still maintain that their debut full-length album, Murmur, is really the masterpiece. I mean, Radio Free Europe was kind of a FM radio and college radio hit. But yeah, just the birds-like guitar and catchy tunes and just totally indecipherable lyrics just made for something really unique in 1983. Go back a few videos. I talk about 1983 in my years retrospective. Okay, this guy would definitely be considered a one-hit wonder in a lot of circles. Lee Michaels. And Lee Michaels, he was from the Bay Area. I think he owns a restaurant now or something, but he had a big hit with the song called Do You Know What I Mean? On his 5th album. And again, this album is pretty good. There's some good tunes. It's got his signature organ sound and kind of bluesy. But his debut album, Carnival of Life, is a psychedelic pop gem that just kind of fell through the crack. A&M Records, I think, was trying to make him more of a pop star, where he wanted to just play the organ and rock out. And of course, the fans of him playing the organ and rock out usually lean towards his self-titled 4th album, with the long jam and the drum solo on the second side and the great version of Stormy Monday. But as far as long jams from Mr. Michaels, I want to steer you towards Space and First Takes, where he actually plays a little guitar on this besides playing the keyboards like he mostly plays. And there's 4 tracks. 2 of them are long jams, and it's just a good record to put on in the background and just, listen to, just rocking out on some jams. And one more band I wasn't going to talk about, except that I was listening to them yesterday and it gave me the idea, and that is Procol Harum. This is their first album. This is, some copies of this don't have their hit, but this particular pressing, American pressing on A&M, has a whiter shade of pale added to it. And it's a pretty solid record. But I want to direct you to some lesser known and lesser talked about Procol Harum records that I'm more likely to lean towards when I want to listen to an entire album by them. Shine On Brightly. Again, I think this was their second album. I could be wrong about this. On the second side, Inhaled 'Twas I was like a 14-minute long prog rock opus. And they get a little bit more psychedelic. Their guitarist, Robin Trower, gets to rock out a little more. And I want to steer you towards 2 more albums that are later in their career that have Robin Trower rocking out. And one of them is Home, which has, that's cool, it's like a game board, which has Whiskey Train, which is just a bop. And this one, Broken Barricades. So yeah, those are 2 Procol Harum albums I want to direct your attention towards that I don't hear talked about. That is so trippy. I am so easily amused, man. Still think marijuanas are safe?
Cut. That was good. We can use that.
Save it, please.